Okay, welcome back to the Dental Marketing Mix. I am Dan Bryan, co-founder of DentalScapes, joined today again by my co-founder, Brian Craig. What's up, Brian? How's it going?
Hey, living
Hey,
life.
hey. Yeah, so excited to dig into this topic today. I'm excited about this one. This is something that, you've been talking about a lot lately, and it's certainly making some buzz in the online marketing space. And,
Mm,
so really we're going to talk today about two things that are no longer true, and sort of what's replacing those truths. And so the first one that's kind of interesting for people, and it's interesting for us because we've always, of course, really doubled down on SEO and organic search. But that said, there's something that's shifting there recently. There used to be this idea that you could, if you did it right and you invested well enough, you could avoid paid advertising essentially and
yeah.
supplant that with doubling down on SEO and organic search. But according to you and according to the prevailing consensus out there, that's no longer the case. What would you say about that?
Yeah, that world is quickly going away. And it makes sense because Google wants to maximize their revenue, of course, with advertising dollars. And what we've seen over the past couple of years is the search engine results have slowly been moving towards paid media. You've had traditional ads forever. Now we've had those LSAs up top for a couple of years. Then we had AI overviews, and we've got sponsored map listings. And more and more is starting to populate the top of that results page. And now it's several panels down to get any organic results, and we're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of searches where there might just be one or two organic results on the entire first page,
Yeah, it's crazy.
um, which is a little bit nuts. And with the introduction of ads in AI mode recently from Google, that's one of the final nails in the coffin, I think, on organic only or SEO only campaigns. You really do have to be visible everywhere now.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think that some of the skepticism by consumers that's historically sort of surrounded clicking on ads, people see that sponsored label or they see, the difference between those ad placements and those organic blue links. Do you think some of that skepticism has declined as they've just been overwhelmed with, all of these advertising options? Now, like you said, you may have a result that only has one or two organic links, which is just wild.
Yeah, yeah. This is a very common discussion I have with folks, and I question whether the skepticism over sponsored links is widespread or not.
Yeah.
Because Dan, like you and I, we see those search results and we're like, "Oh, sponsored. I'm not clicking on that. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, that one's sponsored too. Keep going."
Yeah.
But as I've talked to people over the years, I don't know that the average consumer has that same eye for detail of, oh, that's an ad as we might.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what do you think about, there's still a mindset among certain, dentist owners, among, business owners in other industries that you can survive solely by investing in SEO and organic search. What would
yeah.
you advise, someone who comes to you, and gives you that perspective? What would you advise that person to consider instead? And where would you start now with so many ad options out there?
hmm So I would say you have to know yourself and you have to know your business. Because if someone comes to us and says, uh, "Hey, I'm a one doctor practice. I love it this way. I'm making the amount of money I want to make. I'm okay with 5% growth a year or 10% growth a year." Yeah, you might be able to hit that by just checking some of the basics, getting referrals if you have a good existing patient base, getting fresh 5-star reviews. You might be able to hit that. But we have a lot of practices that come to us and say, "I want to double by the end of the year," or "I want
Yeah.
to, I want to have 50% more patients by, Thanksgiving," or whatever that metric is. And that's not going to happen with organic in 97, 90 plus percent of cases.
Yeah.
That's going to require some level of ad spend. So I think you really have to know your business and know where you want to go. And if you
Yeah.
do want those kind of out, I won't say outlandish, but above average growth metrics, you have to be visible in all of these things now.
100%. Now, also for, for a practice that, does want to grow, is
Hmm.
willing now at this point to start investing maybe for the first time in online advertising, what's
Yeah,
the kind of budget we're looking at that's sort of a starting point or sort of a minimum investment for most? Let's just say an average, one doc practice. What are we kind of looking at there as some kind of like minimum
sure.
viable investment?
Yeah, I think your minimum viable investment in most markets is going to be around $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Now, if you're in downtown Miami and you're wanting to be competitive, that's a different story. Or if you're in LA or whatever.
Yeah.
But for most markets, most MSAs, that's going to be an appropriate budget to start out. If you spend much less than that, you're not going to have the data to really dial in your campaign.
Yeah.
So that's about where I like to see most practices start.
Fair. Sounds good. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, things are changing so rapidly. And of course, not just on the online advertising side of things, but also, and this is, probably our favorite topic to dig into lately, AI. So,
Yeah.
AI is changing everything, obviously, in online marketing and elsewhere. And one thing that used to be true, and Google practically shouted it from the rooftops, was that you focus your website design on the end user and creating an experience
Mm,
that really speaks, as best and as most relevant as possible to the user's query and what the human being on the other side of that wall was looking for. Now, though, we're seeing a shift where folks are saying, and you included, we really need to be pivoting to create these websites in a way that speaks best to AI and in some cases to AI agents. What do you mean by that, and
yeah.
what's the difference that you're seeing out?
Yeah, so there's a lot that came out. So Google had their Google Marketing Live conference in the last 2 weeks, and there's a lot that we're still digesting from that. But one of the things that's pretty clear is that we are shifting from, in a lot of cases, from people visiting websites
Mhm.
to people getting answers directly, either in search via AI mode on Google or via their favorite LLM, whether that be Claude or Gemini or Grok or Perplexity or something totally different.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm not saying don't make the websites look good. We all want to have websites that look good because there will still be humans visiting them.
yeah,
But I think I know we need to be prepared for a world in the near future where the majority of our traffic is probably personalized AI agents.
yeah,
Um, and one of the big things that you want to make sure that your website does in a world like that is that it really calls out your niche and who you want to speak to, because those queries aren't going to be uh, who's the best dentist near me or just dentist near me.
yeah,
The majority of them are going to be more personalized, um, whether it's specifically personalized in the query, like I'm afraid of the dentist and I want to be put to sleep for my root canal. Who's the best dentist within 5 miles of me that can do that? Um, or what we're seeing a lot of, and if you're using ChatGPT or Claude, you've probably seen it, is you can just ask it a basic question, and if you've used it for a little while, it has a lot of context about you.
yeah,
So if you say like, "Who's the best dentist near me?" and you've asked it those types of health questions before, it's going to know, oh, Joe is deathly afraid of the dentist, or
yeah,
Joe has had uh, 5 root canals in the past 24, whatever that context is. And there's going to be context in those fan out queries as the agent is trying to find that answer. So you really do need to speak to um, what you do best, that that you do better than that practice 2 miles down the road.
yeah.
And it can't just be implied in photos or in, whatever. It has to actually be spelled out in a way that these agents will be able to crawl.
So, what are
Um,
some of the practical, tips that you would suggest practices, put into play when creating that kind of website that speaks best to AI agents? What are some of the specific tactics that you recommend?
Yeah, I think you have the basics. So you want you want individual pages per service. Uh you want like one of the other basics is frequently asked questions on some of those pages to answer like what the searcher is looking for. That's not new for AI.
Hmm.
That's been an SEO thing for a long time too. There's been a lot of chatter around schema for AI. There's not a lot of data that backs that up, and there was a recent study by eight was it Ahrefs? It was either Ahrefs or CallRail. I'm going to have to go back and look it up. Maybe we can link it in the notes or something in the future. That was talking about testing adding schema to websites, and
Yeah.
in pretty much every situation it had zero impact. And I think on ChatGPT it even resulted in like 5% less visibility or something
Huh.
crazy. Um, there are a lot of guesses out there about what to include, but I think a lot of your traditional stuff around
Yeah.
pages for each service on the about page. Talk about what makes you unique. Talk about your team. Talk about your credentials. Talk about your office, like what makes your office different. Put some good photos or videos in there.
Yeah.
It's going to pull context about that most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah, it's not always even, the new stuff, the shiny objects. Sometimes, as we
Yeah.
found even in GEO or generative engine optimization, it's doubling down on the things that we've known have worked for a long time,
Yeah.
and really following the best practices and doing it maybe in a more consistent way than's previously been done. So definitely a brave new world out there. If a practice owner listening to this today is interested in taking a look at their website, seeing if it's set up for AI search, what's the next best thing they can do?
Oh goodness, that's a rabbit hole. Um, for something that
Call
uh,
you, man.
y-
Just
y-
call you. That's all they got to do.
well, yeah, of course, yeah, but no, I think the most important thing to focus on is still the fundamentals for practice owners because I'm not going to say hey go look in your code and look for these four specific things.
Yeah.
I think that the low hanging fruit that most folks should take a look at in the majority of cases are a lot of what I just mentioned around individualized service pages with FAQs.
Yep.
In a lot of markets, like you can still do things like have dedicated pages per city, per geo, per neighborhood, whatever.
Yeah.
And one of the most important things, like once you have all the basics on the website knocked out, it's still get reviews
Yeah.
because Google wants to show the most relevant results, whether that's maps, whether that's AI, regardless of what it uh, is serving up your practice going to be relevant and is it going to provide a good experience to the searcher? So if you have a Google Business Pro, so if you have that website set up properly and you have a Google Business profile that's consistently getting 5-star reviews that has all the services built out on it, so they match what you have on your website,
Yep.
has all your categories set right. You're consistently posting new photos or videos. Something that is fairly new that I do want to mention that we've seen in the past quarter, I'll say, is for a long time there, it was just Google Business Profile posts that were surfaced on the profile. What we're seeing a lot more now is actual social media posts being surfaced on the Google Business Profile. So if you
Yeah.
have
Interesting.
a special you've put up on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever, um,
It's actually
Google
pulling
will,
that in now.
yeah, it'll surface that in the carousel below the local business profile.
Interesting. Yeah, well, so much is changing. Like I said, today we got into, maybe two former gospel truths within marketing that are no longer perhaps, as relevant or accurate. And so always, staying tuned to the latest developments. Stay tuned to the DentalScapes blog. We publish, new information and new podcast episodes like this one every single week. You mentioned reviews. We've had a number number of discussions within the last few months on reviews, some of the best ways that dental practices can get those consistently. So check that out. But Brian, thank you so much for coming on today. It's always great hanging out and sharing your perspective, but really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, any dentist owner or practice administrator listening out there, we would so appreciate it if you would take just 30 seconds and leave a 5-star rating or review wherever you're listening to this. It really does mean a lot to us, and it's the best way for us to reach other practice owners out there that we can, potentially help. So thanks all for tuning in. Thanks, Brian, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Dan.
We'll see you.